Hello and welcome to LittleAntiqueMe. I'm Elizabeth and today we are finishing our sewing project. Yay! I'm so excited to see what you guys have come up with. When you are done with your project, please tag me on Instagram and Facebook at LittleAntiqueMe. I would love to see what you came up with, or if you don't feel comfortable sharing on social media, you can always message me them as well, either through Instagram or Facebook, or I have my email address which I'll leave below for you. So today we are going to cover our waistband, our zipper, and our hem, and then we will be done. And so let's just get on with it. Alright, let's get on to our zipper. I'm going to be using a regular zipper today instead of an invisible zipper, just for the ease of showing you how to just do a basic zipper. I would like to eventually do a video on how to do an invisible zipper as well. So this is the zipper we're going to use. We are going to start by swap my regular walking foot out for a zipper foot. And so basically mine just unscrews from the side here, and then you would swap it out and put the other foot on. Each sewing machine is a little different, so some of them clip on, some of them snap on. Mine just happens to have a screw. So once we have that, make sure your thread is under your foot and to the right side. And we are going to pin the zipper along the side of the material with right sides together. And you can read the zipper packaging. They have great instructions in there too as well, with pictures, so that you can kind of work through it that way as well. Once you have it pinned right sides together, we are going to start stitching. We're wanting to keep it right next to the zipper as close as possible. You don't want to go over it because you will have to go back and seam rip it out. Go ahead and go back and forth there. Keep it as close as possible, removing the pins as you go, because otherwise it'll push your foot in the wrong direction. Go nice and slow, take your time, don't rush this process, because that's when mistakes happen. When you get to the bottom, make sure you go back and forth to secure it and trim any extra pieces of material. Go ahead and zip it up just to make sure it looks good, and if it does, then we can continue on. Again, just like the other side, we're going to pin right sides together. And again, we are going to stitch as close as possible to that zipper. Now that you have both sides on, go ahead and check and see how the zipper looks. Make sure that it zips all nicely and you haven't accidentally gone over the zipper. To finish my zippers, I always have to go back and finish the bottom. I can't get it close enough the first time around, so I always just wait and go back to it. So again, just kind of pin it into place, and then I just stitch as close as possible on that edge, going back and forth to secure the stitches. Once you have that all done, go ahead and clip any extra strings so that they are out of your way, because you don't want those hanging out later. And then flip it right side out and check and see how it looks. Now that we have our zipper in, we can move on to our waistband. You're going to look for those marks or notches you made on your waistband and on your skirt. With mine having the serger on the top, it makes it a little tricky to see, but I can still see them. It's hard to see on the camera. So you're going to match those up, facing with your inner facing side, right sides together with your skirt. So as you can see, the outside of the waistband is attached to the outside of the skirt. Also make sure when you're pinning your zipper, make sure it lays flat. So to sew this, we're going to use that 5/8 inch seam allowance that we've been using, and we're going to stitch the band to the skirt. Go slow, because sometimes you have to move the skirt out of your way as needed. remove our pins, clip any extra strings, and we're gonna turn the band right side up. So basically just flip it around so that the band is now part of your skirt. The piece that we ironed under earlier, the 5/8 inch seam, now should be able to tuck the seam inside there and then be able to use that 5/8 ironed piece to cover it up so that it gives it a nice, neat, finished look. It'll create that smooth finish that you would like on your waistband. Go ahead and pin that into place. Re-iron if you need to. For example, like mine became a little unironed as I went about my project, but you can repress it. Once you have it all pinned together, you have two options. You can either hand stitch this down, you can look for an invisible stitch, or you can machine stitch it. I typically prefer hand sewing, but for today I'm just going to show you how to do it on the machine. Maybe one day I will go ahead and show you how to hand stitch it as well. You can look for a video on invisible stitching of waistbands. With the machine, I prefer to do it on the outside so that I can see where it is and keep it nice and neat. You're going to go slow and keep as close as you can to the band edge, remembering that you've pinned that inside piece, and so it should catch it the entire way without any trouble. Once you get to the end, make sure you clip all extra yarn, thread, whatever. And now your waistband is in place. And it should have caught the back too. To finish the waistband, I'm going to be using a hook and bar to finish it. So the hook looks much like this. Let me put it on my hand for you. And then the bar looks like this. And so there's also a hook and eye. I prefer the bar because it keeps it together better in my books. Eyes are great too. So we're going to be hand stitching these on. So grab a needle and some thread. Some of the thread that you've been using is ideal. Thread your needle and knot the thread on after you get it on. I like to start with the bar side. So basically I thread my needle through the hole and then actually looped the thread around. I'm not sure how to explain that. I close the skirt up to see kind of where I want the bar to be, hold it in place, and then I do about 3 or 4 stitches into this hole to create a nice hold. Then I slide it through the material to the other side, making sure that my stitches don't show on the inside of the skirt. I again will repeat this process and do about 3 or 4 stitches here. Once I've done that, I go ahead and finish it off with a knot. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the hook. I start it the exact same as I started the bar, so I loop my thread through and attach it like that. And then the hook is the trickiest part for me. I don't know why, it always messes with my mind. So I attach the hook to the bar, I pull it over as if it were closed on the skirt to see where I want it to be. Then I pin the band together so that it holds that part in place for me. I give the hook a good snug tug, and then I start stitching wherever it is laying. Much like the bar, I do about 3 or 4 stitches in each hole to make sure that it's nice and firm, because I don't want this to pop off while wearing it or what have you. After I've done the 3 or 4 stitches in there, I don't like my hook to potentially be floppy like this, and so what I do is I go back and I do about 3 or 4 loops around the actual hook itself to create it to be stable, making sure you're really careful not to stitch the outside of your material, only catching the inside of your waistband. And now once you have got that done, go ahead and create your knot and knot it, and I do about 2 knots, and then I tie it off. Go ahead and close your hook and bar, making sure it looks nice and neat. Now let's talk about hem. The pattern calls for a 1-inch hem, and unfortunately that doesn't work for everybody. I typically like to measure my skirt against one that I like, or I have my husband measure it. For this one, I just kind of went with the pattern, so I went ahead with a 1-inch hem. So there's a couple ways you can do this. Since I used my serger, I just iron up 1 inch and then stitch it down. But if you didn't do this, you can iron up 1/2 inch and then 1/2 inch again, pin, and then stitch. And I'll show you a different way to do this in just a moment. And that's what it would look like when it was all stitched down. So go ahead and press the hem however you have decided to do so. For me, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and iron up 1 inch. You can also use a measuring tape for this. I am an eyeballer, so I just kind of eyeball 1 inch and then go from there. After you've pressed it, another way you can do it is iron up that inch, unfold it, press it in half, which would be 1/2 inch, and then press it down and pin, and that would be your folded look. Go ahead and take this after you've pinned and pressed however you decide to do, and stitch all the way around, and you're going to be done. I like to stitch kind of close to the edge of my serge just to keep that hem nice and flat. Yay! You finished your project! I'm so proud of you. I'm so thankful that you guys came along with me in this sewing project. I'm so thankful for Lydia for asking me all these sewing questions that I covered in these videos. It's kind of neat to be able to teach others long distance. If you have another project you would love to see how to do, or if there was something that maybe I didn't cover, let me know. I would love to do some more of these videos for you and teach you more sewing. I'm hoping to come back with some more, I don't know, sewing projects to see what we have. But I would love to see, again, but I would love to see your finished project. So please send them to me. I would love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. May God bless you and keep you this week, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye!